But Martin, I want to start with a story that I encountered in Tunisia in 2011, shortly after the, you remember Bouazizi and what followed, and Ben Ali, the president, being kicked out of the country. And I was with political parties there, all political parties. I was facilitating the conference, and I learned something very interesting, which I want to tell you. When the president saw people on the streets, Ben Ali, he called the chief of the military, and he asked, why are you not clearing people out of the streets? Because the police had been trying to do that, but they were overwhelmed. So the president wanted the military to actually clear the streets. And something very interesting happened. The chief of the military called the various commanders and the chief of police, and he told them that, you know, when the government fails, the state does not fail. The government are the people we elect from time to time so that they can be able to use our taxes to implement policies. But the people and their institutions are the state. So they told the president that we are coming over, sir, to meet you. And when they went to the Palace of State, they told him that, you know, Your Excellence, you are one of the Tunisians, and we cannot use Tunisian guns to kill Tunisians. We cannot use Tunisian guns to kill Tunisians. What has failed is not Tunisians. What has failed are the policies of the government. And because the policies of government are the ones that have failed, we are now recommending that the government be changed so that we can have better policies and better government. In the SAR, we have actually prepared a plane for you at the military base. And because you are one of the Tunisians and we don't want you to be hurt, we have actually prepared for your safe exit to the airport, to the military base. They had already spoken to Malta. And so Malta was waiting for Ben Ali. And they said, go with your family. He said, but I can't just go. They said, no, sir, we have arranged for your security and your transport to the airport. And you saw what was at the palace. Gold and diamonds and foreign currency and everything was at the palace. So they said, no, just take what you need. We will bring the rest to you for your family. So the family and Ben Ali were safely escorted to the airport, and he left for Malta. And what happened thereafter is that the people were able to put in place a different government which was responsive to the needs and the policies that were responding to the needs of the people of Tunisia. I said, this understanding of the state and government is very important because it's rarely taught in a school. It is rarely taught even in the universities. And I thought that you cannot be involved in any conversation at our level if we do not have a clear understanding what the struggle is and what we want to change and what kind of society we want to establish. That must be the beginning point. Rosa is the one, she's the one who said that before a revolution happens, it is perceived as, I'm trying to see whether I'm with the room.
Impossible.
Yes. But after it happens, it is seen as inevitable. You know why I've put those dates there is because Rosa died at 49. And I am very few years from 49. That is why I put up these years, because I'm 43 and 49 is not far, as you can see. And when I see what she was able to accomplish within this very short time that she was alive, I ask myself, what more do I need to do so that I can be able to accomplish even a small bit of what Rosa was able to accomplish. Ending colonial rule in this country was perceived as impossible. But by the time the colonial powers were negotiating the independence at Lancaster, independence looked inevitable. So, what is this revolution that we are talking about now? Because if we do not clarify what is this revolution we are talking about now, we will not know why it is impossible and why it is inevitable. The conditions for revolution are not right because the organizational conditions are not right. We are not organized to bring about a revolution. We have not even clarified what that revolution is. So that is why we are not making progress. I wrote an article 3 days ago that the kind of political leadership we had 20 years ago was far much better than what we have today. So, to talk about a revolution is to talk about creating a new order. A new order. The current order is this one. This is the current order. This is the current order. The order of ufisadi, ukabila, ubaguzi, unyonyaji, utawala duni, ukoloni mamboleo. So, we must tell ourselves that when we are talking about a revolution as creating a new order, we must start to ask which is the new system, new processes, new practices, new relationships that we are talking about. And we are saying that a revolution is ideological. The ideas and values of that revolution have to be defined. What ideas are we talking about? Economic, what is our stand on land? What is our stand on women's leadership? What is our stand on education? What is our stand on economic production? When only 8,000 people own 70% of, you cannot create jobs in that kind of a system. Value is going elsewhere and you are dying for lack of food. You can't afford housing, you can't afford water, you can't afford, everything has been privatized in a neoliberal capitalist system. Education is private. Water is private, housing is private, transport is private, food is private, everything is private. And that is why they sell to you mercury sugar and aflatoxin unga and everything. Because the capitalist system is not interested in people, it is interested in money and profits. Are we still together?
Yes.
So I don't have to write capitalism here. But the problem, the crisis, is the doped system. So we must know that. That's why, if we don't know it, we cannot clarify the destination. And that's why we must now talk about social justice and human dignity as our destination. Where public goods are public goods and services. We must coin a system, because without it, everything else is not possible. You know, we must identify the fundamental problems and then talk about the secondary problems. And that's why I've said the women's movement, the human rights movement, every movement that talks about social justice and human dignity must first of all identify how to make public goods and services public goods and services. Without a revolution in this country, we are all going to die. We are already dying. Let me tell you, because that is why I was asked to come here. If you have not buried a relative, you are going to bury relatives in this coming 3-4 years. Because healthcare has failed, education has failed, food has failed, people are dying of something. Without a revolution in this country, we are going to die. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
So a revolution is inevitable. Otherwise, we are going to die because we are already dying. So we must stop this dying by actively discussing transformational leadership, the movement, and the revolution. Kenyans actually do not dislike the situation we are in.
Yes. We don't dislike.
We don't dislike the situation. Okay, still the matatus are there. So tutachukua hizo matatu tuende town to hustle. Still, hata tukifungiwa nyumba, nitatoka kwa hii nyumba ya 5,000 niingie sasa pali nyumba ya 3,000 itapatikana, nikufie huko. Still, ngawaje cost ya stima na food imeenda juu, nitajua vile tutajipanga tu. We are actually pushing ourselves to the margin. We are pushing ourselves to the margin, to where the system has already failed. That's where we are pushing ourselves to, so that we can clear the way for the ones who have already taken over the dope system to exploit us more, to popularize us more, to oppress us further with the police and our military, and our guns, and our codes, and our schools, and our universities. Universities in this country are militarized. They are torture chambers. Is that true? You don't know that?
It's true.
Universities in this country are centers of oppression. They are bases for dehumanizing young learners in this country. That's what hospitals have become. 10 years ago, we never used to have a situation where people used to be detained in public hospitals. Now they are detained. Hospitals now even detain bodies. Is that happening in this country?
Yes.
Things are getting worse. So that is why we are saying that without a revolution, we are all going to die. So the only way we are going to stop the death, because it's imminent, is that we must rise up and cause the revolution. We must move beyond our passion for the revolution and raise our capacity and competence to deliver the revolution. That is why we must take care of you. Socially, we must build you. In terms of your education, we must build your character. We must build your competence and skills to be effective. We must build your abilities to communicate clearly. Europe rose on the basis of social housing. There's no country in Europe that did not provide housing, because if you don't provide housing, you can't provide anything. The crisis we have in this country is because housing is not a fundamental right. Everybody must be housed to the standard that the state and the society chooses. Because once you house people, then you can provide water, you can provide education, you can provide public transport, you can provide the basic necessities. You can monitor the quality of the food they are consuming, and your healthcare budget will go down because you have control. Housing is so fundamental. That's the first thing. Then once you have housed people, you must provide for their education. Number 3 is that once you educate people, they must access healthcare services that are of the highest standard. In Nairobi, Mili, you remember, that in the 90s and the 80s, every estate in this country had an health center,
Yes.
an health clinic, where people used to go with their card and they are registered in that healthcare and they used to be treated. And listen to me, if you are unable to provide those things to Kenyans, stay away. We want a government, a leadership, a state that is going to secure Kenyans. The reason young people and families are falling apart, people are suffering from depression, stress, is because they long ago accepted private neoliberal agenda to take over. So I am told now, men and women have to work 3 times harder to afford what our fathers were affording in the 1980s. Education, healthcare, public transport. There was public transport owned by the City Council of Nairobi. Let me tell you, there is no European country where you go to and there is no public transport system. There's a there must be a public transport system. That's number 6. If you can't provide a public transport system, you are leaving us to Mungiki and the private operators to close down matatus, to rape us, to strip us our clothes, that they are short, and so on and so forth. Public transport is the fundamental of security and safety. That's why buses are killing people at night, causing accidents, because the whole of this country does not have a public transport system.